I've had several questions about the Antichrist, and so I thought it would be good to talk about that today. You don't hear much about the Antichrist anymore. It used to be talked about a lot, and the figure of the Antichrist was a fixture in popular Christianity for many years. But that's no longer the case. You seldom hear about it today. The term Antichrist occurs in the Bible only in the books of 1st and 2nd John. The book of 1st John contains 3 references. The book of 2nd John contains 1. And that's odd because most people associate the Antichrist with the book of Revelation. But the Antichrist does not appear in the book of Revelation. It's only in 1st and 2nd John. Now, before we look at those passages, I want us to look at that word, Antichrist. It is the word Christ with the prefix anti attached to it. And normally when we think of anti, we think of against. But in ancient Greek, the prefix anti could mean against. It could also mean opposite of. It could mean instead of. It could mean beside. And it could mean in addition to. So it could have all those meanings in ancient Greek. And since we can't ask the biblical writers what they meant, we'll just have to read what they wrote and try to infer it by context. So the first mention of the word Antichrist is in the book of 1 John, and it's what we heard as our New Testament reading. Little children, it is the last hour, and you have heard that the Antichrist is coming. Even now many Antichrists have come, by which we know it is the last hour. They went out from us, but they were not of us. If they had been of us, they would have continued with us, but they went out that they might make manifest that none of them were of us. Now, although at first it says the Antichrist, it goes on to talk of plural Antichrists, and it says they have already come. And it says that they went out from us, which would indicate that they came from among the Christians. But this verse indicates that they were never truly Christians, apparently, but it does indicate that the Antichrist did not come from some other religion or something. They came from among Christians. Now the next reference says, "Who is a liar but he who denies that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist who denies the Father and the Son." And so here the author of 1 John is basically saying that anyone who does not believe in Jesus is Antichrist. And the next reference says, "Every spirit that does not confess that Jesus has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you heard was coming, and is now already in the world." Now, if you have a good Bible translation there, when you read that, where it says the spirit of the Antichrist, your Bible will have that word spirit in italics. And that is indicating that the word spirit is not in the manuscript. It is added by the translators because they think that's what it indicates the writer intended to say. Anything that you see in your Bible translations in italics is not in the manuscript. The translators have added it for what they consider to be clarity. So the word spirit is not in there. It literally says, "Every spirit that does not confess Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is not of God, and this is the Antichrist, which you have heard was coming and is now in the world." Now, we do not know what every spirit that does not confess that Jesus has come in the flesh refers to. Is it talking about people? Or is it talking about some kind of spiritual beings? Or is it talking about something else? We don't know. The main thing to get from that is that whatever 1 John author meant by Antichrist was already active in the world in his time, which was almost 2,000 years ago. The final reference to Antichrist is found in the book of 2 John. It says, many deceivers have gone out into the world, which do not confess Jesus is coming in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an antichrist. This is similar to what we just saw in 1 John. Instead of spirits, though, like it says in 1 John, it says deceivers. And they do not confess Jesus having come in the flesh. It says deceivers, and then it goes on to say a deceiver and an antichrist. We really don't know what to make of that. Obviously, though, there are many antichrists. Now, those are the only references to Antichrist in the Bible. There are other things, though, in the New Testament that have been combined with this. The first comes from the book of 2 Thessalonians, and I'm going to read you this passage. Now, brethren, concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our gathering together to him, we ask you not to be soon shaken in mind or troubled, either by spirit, by word, or letter, as if from us, as though the day of Christ had already come. Let no one deceive you, that day will not come, unless the falling away comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes himself and exalts himself above all that is called God or worship, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself as God. Do you not remember that when I was still with you, I told you these things? And now you know what is restraining. He will be revealed in his own time. For the hidden truth of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who restrains it will do so until he is out of the way. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his power. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Now, this speaks of something called the lawless one coming before the return of Jesus. And this lawless one, it says, will be worshipped in place of God. He will make himself out to be God and sit in the temple of God. And now what does that mean? What does it mean that he'll make himself out to be God? That he'll sit in the temple of God? That he'll be worshipped in place of God? Is it literally that there'll be the church of the lawless one and people will go in there and worship? Or does it mean something else? That no one knows for sure. The text itself does not make it clear. The most widespread way that has been interpreted within Christianity is that the lawless one will appear from within Christianity itself and will operate from within organized Christianity. Now, of course, the text here talks about the lawless one already being at work, but its exact identity will not be revealed until Jesus returns, at which time Jesus will destroy it, whatever or whoever it is. But it does say that the lawless one will have lots of power, will perform signs and wonders. It will be a miraculous thing, and it will deceive many. But it says the only ones it will deceive are those who did not receive the love of truth, who did not believe the truth. And the assumption is that there are people who do not believe in Jesus that are in Christianity, and these people are the ones that will be fooled by this lawless one when it arises up within Christianity. Now, this is disturbing because all this evil, all this deception that comes into the world might very well come from the religion of Christianity itself. And it might very well deceive many people who think of themselves as Christians. Normally, when we think of these figures at the end of the world, we think of them as being someone from outside of Christianity. And normally when we think of it as someone, of course, outside of the people we know or the people that we know about. But this says that it might come from within Christianity and be someone that is highly respected. Now, all we can do here with this passage from 2 Thessalonians is make assumptions because we don't know exactly what the author was referring to. We can make educated guesses rather than just guesses, but they're still assumptions. Now, the next figure I want to look at, we've looked at it here before. It's the beast of Revelation, comes from chapter 13 of the book of Revelation. And we've talked about that, and we saw that the beast is not really a beast at all. The Greek is literally a living creature. It has been transformed into the beast by some of the Bible translators. It's just living creature in the Bible. Revelation talks about two of these living creatures. The first comes up out of the water, and people marvel at it and worship it. It's a wonderful thing. It gains authority over the whole world. It is against Christians, though. Then another living creature arises out of the earth, and the creature that arose out of the water gives its power to the creature that arose out of the earth, and it performs great signs and wonders. It tells people to make an image or likeness of the creature that rose out of the water, and then it makes this image that they make breathe and speak. All the people in the world are required to worship this thing. If they don't, they're killed. And that's where the popular thing of the mark of the beast comes from. Everyone is required to have the mark of the beast either on their forehead or right hand in order to buy or sell anything. And this is also where the number 666 comes from. Instead of having what's called the mark of the beast on your forehead or right hand, you can have the number 666 on there. And the text says that you can easily calculate what this refers to because it is the number of a man. Now, of course, we all know the speculation that's run rampant over the years about what the mark of the beast is and what the number 666 represents. I remember when I was in college, the popular thing going around was that it referred to Henry Kissinger. But apparently it was not him. He's still alive, though, but he never became the Antichrist. So nobody really knows the number 666 or the mark of the beast, whatever it might be. Now, these two references, the one to the man of lawlessness we saw in Thessalonians, and the one about the living creature we saw in Revelation, have sort of been combined into one and combined with what 1 John says and 2 John, and have all been combined together to produce the figure that is popularly known as the Antichrist. And that has been a popular assumption that you could do that in Christianity for many years. There are problems with that, though. The book of 1 John does speak of the Antichrist, and so does the book of 2 John, but they also speak of Antichrists, plural, and speak of them already being active. And obviously, the man of lawlessness that is spoken of in 2 Thessalonians is something that comes at the end, and so is the living creature in Revelation, something that comes in the end. And so there is a problem in trying to lump all of these things together and call that the Antichrist. But there is a way of dealing with all that, though, and this is the way Orthodox Christianity deals with it, and I like this way of dealing with it. It goes like this: Jesus came to earth, and the powers of evil couldn't tolerate Jesus here on earth, and they also couldn't tolerate the Christians and the Spirit of Jesus working here on earth, and so they immediately went to work to counter Christianity. The Antichrists, plural, are forerunners of the Antichrist. Their job is to lay the groundwork over the years for the appearance of the Antichrist. And this goes back to something that we saw in our Thessalonians passage. It talks about the man of lawlessness, but it says that he will not be revealed until the great falling away happens. And that is the job then of these antichrists that are active in the world now. They are there to lead people astray and cause the great falling away, a departure from the gospel truth, a corruption of Christianity, and they do that gradually over the years. It's a gradual corruption of Christianity that eventually results in the great falling away from the teachings of Jesus. And then, after all this has happened for ages and ages and ages, then the Antichrist will appear and make one big final push to destroy Christianity. And then the end will come. And that's one way to put what 1st and 2nd John say together with what Thessalonians and Revelation say. It's really hard to know, though, if this is right. We do not know if that's the correct way to interpret it or not, but it's the most reasonable way I've ever seen. I don't like it when people ignore these ideas of Antichrist, the man of lawlessness, and the living creatures in Revelation. I think we need to take that seriously because they are taken seriously in the New Testament. There is some kind of evil active now that is actively opposed to and seeking to destroy Christianity. And as time goes on, we can expect that to get stronger. And the way the Orthodox look at it, each generation has its own Antichrist. Each generation has its own situation in which Antichrist is active. Each era has activity unique to that era that is perpetrated by spirits against Christ, spirits against Christians. So we've seen really today when we looked at Antichrist that we can't really line out anything exactly about all this stuff. But even though there's a lot we can't know exactly, there are some important things we can glean from it. These things have been active ever since the time of Jesus. They've been active, in other words, for 2,000 years. But the thing to realize is they do not act as tyrants. They do not appear evil. They do not sound evil. They act and appear as saviors, bringing solutions. They do not in any way appear evil. They do not say evil things. They do not do evil things. All they do looks good. All they do appears good. And they do a lot of good things. And you see, that's what makes them so attractive to people. From the text we looked at today, it's not that people are lined up at gunpoint and forced to follow them. These things seem so good, so wondrous, have such solutions to our problems that people will follow them on their own. By far, most people will follow them on their own. By far, most people will acclaim them as great and wonderful, and they will look good. Another thing we can glean from all this is that over time we can expect to see true Christianity corrupted. This has happened in the past. We've seen it in our own lifetimes in organized Christianity. In fact, from the book of 1 John, what we read out of there, you can say from that the basis of operations of Antichrist is not Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism or atheism or anything like that. The base of operation of Antichrist is from within Christianity itself. They operate by corrupting Christianity and then work from within organized Christianity itself. This harkens back to Jesus telling us to watch, be ready, be on guard. We're to be on guard against this stuff. Jesus said many false messiahs will appear, and that is literally pseudo-Christs, pseudo meaning false, false Christ, many false prophets, and he tells us to watch and be ready for them. The same theme is found in the book of 1 John, a passage that is right before the Antichrist passage. It says, "Do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world." And so it tells us to watch and be on guard. And finally, there's something else that we can glean from these Antichrist passages. Eventually, due to the activity of the Antichrist, people will see true Christianity as a threat. True Christianity will be seen as part of the problem. Aren't we beginning to see that in our society today? That true Christianity is seen as part of the problem? The forces of Antichrist are operating to stamp out Christianity. And again, we can say the world, by and large, will follow the Antichrist. Organized Christianity, at least in my opinion, has already been corrupted to the point that now we can say that much of organized Christianity has become a tool, not of Christ, but of something else. And then what we've got to look forward to is true Christianity being declared a threat and seen as part of the problem. But we need to realize that none of this will seem evil as it happens. People say, oh, if you want the Antichrist, look at somebody like Adolf Hitler. And they picture somebody frothing at the mouth and screaming and stomping around. No. That's not the Antichrist right there. It will seem good. And it will be so sweet and so pleasant. And it will offer such solutions. And that's why we're told to watch. Be on guard. That's why it's so dangerous. Because it is so deceptive. Now, I know all of this seems depressing. But I know a lot of people get depressed on things that are going on in the world today. There's so much going on today. It seems like that we're losing everything now. And we probably will. And it could be seen as just, what are you going to do? Just throw your hands up now. How does it end? How does the Bible end? The Bible ends with God winning. The Bible ends with God winning over all these forces opposed to Him. And the Bible ends with God creating a new earth, a new place for us to live, where we live where none of that stuff will be. So it's not throw up your hands and give up. We march through it all as victors because we've already won. They've already lost. You see, I think a lot of people forget that the Bible ends with God winning and creating a new place for us to live where all that stuff won't exist. You see, God's going to step in and negate it all. And that right there is the essence of the Christian faith. And that's why we are told to march as conquerors. March as conquerors. Because God has already won the battle for us.